Baylor 78, Washington 69. That's Tanner McGrath. I'm Greg Waddell. We are here to discuss it. We are here to eat crow. Before I throw it to Tanner, must start with the obvious here. A week ago, we did a segment of the Full Sleepers podcast. You weren't on it, but I was, in which we did a bunch of superlatives. And there were two categories at the very top of the superlative sheet. One was the team that is most likely to overachieve. I voted Washington. The second was team most likely to underachieve. I voted Baylor. Our mentions were lit on fire with Baylor fans being like, how can we underachieve when we're not even ranked? What are you talking about? My answer was you're 17th on Ken Palm. I think you will underachieve from there. Fast forward, Baylor picks up a 9-point win. Honestly, they looked very, very, very impressive. And here I am to put my hands up and say, yep, I was wrong. I also would like to say I am blown away by the passion of the Baylor fan base that I did not know
Oh
existed.
yeah. Hmm.
After one game, basically, I have not seen my mentions like this in over a year. So Baylor, you deserve it. Go ahead and tell me how wrong I was. Tanner, what did you see here? Were you as surprised as I was that Baylor really dominated this game in the second half?
Yeah, I mean, I really had two major takeaways from this game, I'd say, one on each side. The first is that, I still think that Baylor's offense, I don't think the guards are nearly as explosive as in years past. Like, I don't think Obi Agam had a great game. I love Ratai. I think that like the Ratai guard two-man ball screen game, like I think that's what they need to lead into more if they're going to play through the guards. The thing is that might not matter because those wings are electric. Carr and Yesufu are incredibly explosive. They're both great shooters. Carr, I mean, the entire team shot like shit except for Cam Carr, who made a bunch of shots. And they were both really dangerous in transition, and also the perimeter defense was really good. Forced a lot of deflections and turnovers, especially once they went down early in the first half. So, um, I do have some. I have some questions about Baylor's ability to continually generate consistent offense because it seems like a lot of their offense is based on tough shot making, but it's tough to argue with that level of wing production, which seems like it's going to come night in and night out. Now, for Washington, I mean, so Baylor, it turns out they're Scott Drew's going to a modified pack line defense, which I did not know about. And that is really interesting because it means that they're going to protect the paint pretty well. And it seems like what they're going to do is try and overcompensate for their lack of rim protection. And they still have severe rim protection issues. But Washington has a huge floor spacing problem in those two big lineups. I mean, if they shot 0 for 7 from 3 in the first half. For the game, they still won 42 to 28 paint, sorry, points in the paint battle. But I mean, if they shoot it slightly better from 3, this game is basically a coin flip game. They went 3 for 20, I think. But Baylor was able to pack it in, and they kind of group guarded the Huskies' two bigs, including Steinbach, who didn't have a very great game. And there were just zero driving lanes for the Washington perimeter players to get into. It was so crowded. So you had like there was a possession late in the second half where Diallo tried to drive like 3 times to his left, and there was just no lane. He was stopped at every single bounce. And while Steinbach and another big were just surrounded down low, right? And the announcer said that's the pack line defense right there. That was like Washington's offense not spacing the floor enough. It was so crowded down there. None of the guards got downhill aside from Mandequit, who I thought had a couple of really good drives actually. But even Peterson's buckets were weird, like mid-range spin moves, a few blocked layups, and guess what? He went 1 for 9 from 3.
I hated his game. I,
Yeah,
I have
so
more thoughts on that, but I hated his game.
Washington 28 made buckets, 7 assists.
Yeah.
Like there is a like Baylor's defense, credit to them, they played well, but if Washington can't beat an undersized pack line defense when you have an elite big man down there because you just can't space the floor, there's some real problems for the Washington offense. That looks a lot like last year with Osibor, where it was like kind of the same thing. So, not setting off panic meters yet for Washington, but definitely concerning.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, like if you were to tee this up with the question of like, was it more Baylor being impressive or more Washington having issues? I think my honest answer is a good mix of both.
Absolutely.
This was certainly a better, more impressive version of Baylor than I anticipated getting early in the season, and it largely was due to, I thought, a stellar defensive performance.
Mhm.
You called it a modified pack line. Can you explain what you mean by modified?
Yeah, I mean the most prototypical example of the pack line is what Tony Elliott ran at Virginia, right? It's basically they basically like at the free throw line, they kind of just wall off, and everyone you have like your on ball defender, but then everyone kind of stunts and helps, and it's all just to deny the dribble. And it by modified, I just mean Baylor runs. They're going to run a certain uh, flavor of that. But the whole point of the defense is to keep dribble drivers out of the paint,
Yep.
and they did an amazing job of that here. I just like the way that you beat the pack line though is that you can beat it over the top, and that's
Yep.
what Washington didn't do.
Yep. Yeah.
So you're right. It's a good mix of both, right? Like Baylor held up super well against Steinbach, even without much rim protection, just by overcrowding him. But part of that is because Washington couldn't pull Baylor's defenders away and couldn't
Yeah.
make them pay for packing it in.
It was the right personnel group on Washington's side to kind of employ that out of nowhere and
Hmm.
get this sort of result. But yeah, just as a starting point, let me make sure I just praise Baylor enough before I dissect what I'm frustrated with Washington. Look, six guys in double figures. That's a lot more balanced than I even anticipated. I thought this team was going to be very top heavy from Tunde and Cameron Carr.
Yep.
To be able to get like 12 from Dan Skillings, 12 from Caden Powell, 12 from Isaac Williams off the bench, that's ahead of schedule for me. I think the size positionally of these wings is something I really
Yes.
underestimated. And I
Yes.
shouldn't have because we met these guys at Big 12 Media Day. And one of my takeaways from talking to Obi and Skillings was like, damn, those guys are bigger than I thought they were on paper. And it just kind of showed, right? Mandequit's a small guard. Wesley Yates is a small guard. Kamari Peterson's a tiny guard. And I thought when those guys were on the floor trying to get that floor spacing, they couldn't. When they weren't hitting shots, they couldn't go anywhere off the dribble against the size and physicality of Baylor. So there's more to work with here than I anticipated. I was just wrong about the build of this roster. I thought Baylor was going to be star driven. They're not. They're more balanced than that. Really thought Obi Agben was impressive on a night where he was 1 for 7 from the floor. I thought he was by far the guy that was kind of stirring the Baylor offense in the half court. 7 assists, I thought was really good. Thought he really didn't force the issue offensively to score, and everybody else sort of benefited from that. Cameron Carr quickly. I still like I'm kind of back and forth on him because he's been the prolific guy, sort of the alpha of shot hunting number one every time we've seen this Baylor team. I thought tonight again he served that role, was the leading scorer with 16 points, hit three threes. He tried the dunk of the season. He tried to poster at the end of the game and damn, almost threw it
Yeah.
down. I guess just in terms of like Baylor historical Scott Drew context, are you buying Cameron Carr as a quality number one option?
I'm really impressed with how he's handling ball screens. And I think that shows that he's not just going to be a spot up shooter. I think he's going to be a real, like, can be like an on ball shot creator, playmaker. I think both these wings can. Um, so, and I think both these wings are going to need to because, like I said, like the guards are just not as explosive as in years past with these Baylor teams. And I love Ratai, by the way. That's my guy on this team. Like, just I thought he was great in the first half and was really smart. A lot of good short roll stuff. But the Baylor wings are going to have to carry a lot of this offense, and I do think they can for large swaths of the season. Like, I'm buying those two as a tandem together. Um, I wonder how high the ceiling is. Just doesn't seem like they get a lot of easy buckets,
Yeah,
but they are tough shot makers.
that's the thing. Yeah, they
Mhm.
hit quite a few tough ones in this game, but I think they can do that. So I'm with you for the most part. I basically everything just ahead of schedule. Everything at
Yes.
least marginally or significantly better than I thought it would be for Baylor at this point in the year. Cameron
And
Carr
Washington's way behind schedule at the same time.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's flip to it. All right. I have a tendency and a history of going scorched earth when I feel like a team lets me down. Certainly, the team I voted to most overachieve this season let me down in this spot. Jumped out to, I believe, an 11-4 lead at the under 16 in the first half. And you're thinking,
Yep.
okay, this is the vision. From there, Baylor just dominated, I thought, for the final 36 minutes.
Mhm.
Steinbach's really good, and I want to at least give him his flowers. He had 10 and 15 with 3 blocks in this game in 32 minutes. Obviously, the scoring wasn't there, but just how easy he makes dominating the boards look night in and night out should not
Especially
be
against a
lost.
smaller Baylor front line. He was just all over the offensive glass.
Yeah, it looked like he could have had 25 rebounds if needed. They had 15 in this game, and there was never a moment where I'm like, oh, he should have pulled that rebound down. Here's my question, I guess, and you mentioned it as kind of floor spacing as the crux of this, but if Hans Steinbach is the best player on your team, I think we've had moments both in the exhibitions and in the real games to start this season where Hans's scoring has been on full display. I felt one of the largest issues for Washington in this game was when they needed to, they basically couldn't get him in effective positions to score.
Yep.
They
Yep.
came down in the half court and were either running Zoom Diallo trying to get downhill. No, yuck. Bryson Tucker got hurt. That obviously did not help them. I thought, to your point, JJ Mandaquit was the one guy who found success getting into the paint. But once he got there, he was too small to finish. Finished with 5 turnovers to 2 assists, some ugly turnovers. I just like identity wise, I don't know what Washington was trying to do, but I know this. Whatever they were trying to do against Baylor did not involve Steinbach enough. Was that just a game specific thing, result of how Baylor was defending? Or do you think that's something they're going to run into this year where this isn't the right personnel to feature Steinbach offensively?
Well, I mean, the problem is if they don't space the floor a little bit better, if they don't find some shooting and some guard production outside of Zoom Diallo, who had to pull up in the mid range, it felt like 15 times in this game, you're going to run into the same problem that you did last year, where you
Yeah.
have an ultra talented interior big man who can dominate the boards, who can facilitate, who can score, but is just not effective or efficient enough because he's getting crowded in the lanes constantly because all the Baylor defenders were just sagging in on him. I mean, it felt like every time he touched the ball, he had 3 guys on him.
Yeah.
And that is just the problem. Now, of course, Washington started 2 freshmen. Like it's pretty early in the year. Like this team, there's still room for a lot of improvement. But I mean, I was really under impressed with the floor spacing in this game, and I was really under impressed with it. It seemed like it was a personnel issue. It
Yeah.
really did, and that worries me because that could just I mean, it could be all the same problems Washington had last year. And I expect this team to take huge steps forward. And one high major game in, and it seems like they've made no steps forward.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's got to be scary because you look at the 3 for 20 shooting from three number. Obviously, that's a disaster, and obviously, you would expect that to be better. Just if you simulate the same game again, you don't think they're going to go 3 for 20. However, I mean, Yates was 1 for 5. Peterson was 1 for 9. Those are the two quote unquote shooters on this team. They go 2 for 14. Okay. The rest of the team only attempts six,
Yep.
goes 1 for 6. Like it's not like personnel wise, there's going to be much better from the large portion of this group. And Des Claude's the guy who's out. Des Claude does not help this.
Yeah, no.
So
Nope.
to me, it's like it's gonna fall entirely on Yates and Peterson. Yates is certainly better than this. He was 3 for 15, 1 for 2 from the line, played 37 very empty minutes, and I thought he just started out cold and let it affect everything he did. Peterson, I don't know what to make of right now. I mean, a guy I really liked on paper coming in. I despised what I saw from him in this game. Thought he was making terrible decisions. He clearly knew, like, I'm out there to gun. But the shots he was taking from three, that
We're
late one where
bad.
he hung in the air instead of just like a pump one dribble,
Yep. Hmm.
his instincts scare me. Should I back off of my fear with Peterson based on what you saw in this game?
I think it's early. I think it's early. I think it's early for this entire roster, but I mean, yeah, look, shot quality for what it's worth graded this game as basically a coin flip, right? Like if both teams like based on the quality of the shots they made. The problem was did not seem like Washington was getting easy threes
No.
at all. And they were taking poor threes too. And because those two guys were taking like it seemed like a lot of off the dribble, just like hand in your face threes. I'd have to look at those numbers more, but it's just early. I still think Peterson's a really good player. I still think Yates is a really good player. Like they had a bad game. There's room for improvements, but the red flags are there
Yeah.
for both of them.
Yeah. It would be one thing, like, just to compare it, Purdue, and I know we have Purdue love or the issues on this channel, so I don't want that. This was not intentional. But Purdue came out and shot horribly in one of their first two games of the season. And it's very, you can point to it and be like, Fletcher, Lawyer, Braden Smith are not going to shoot that way again. It's totally different when it's like, yeah, Bryson Tucker and Zoom Diallo as
Yeah,
Claude struggled.
yeah,
Weird if they only made shots. Like, yeah, Peterson, you expect to go better than 1 for 9, but it was gross. To your point, everything was gross, and that's a credit to the Baylor defense. They certainly earned this type of performance, but it's a massive wake up call to my Washington belief of like, oh damn, they are really talented. The pieces just might not fit as much as I really wanted them to. I feel like one of my largest takeaways coming out of this game is going to be that this team will go where Mandequit takes them. And maybe
sure.
that's a lot to put on his shoulders. It's 1 week into his career. He's going to be stellar. But I think if there was one thing I was most disappointed in, it probably was his performance. And it's a little unfair to single him out that way. But to your point, he got where he wanted to go, most possessions against this defense. And then I just thought he didn't know what to do when he got there. He didn't have a finishing move. The size kind of overwhelmed him a little bit. And this is not the most imposing Baylor front court either. 5 turnovers. I thought a few of them were bad. Only 2 assists is a big problem. What was the
Yeah,
number? 7 assists to 28 made buckets. That's
yeah,
not what they want. And I do feel like Sprinkle seems to trust Mandequit to give him the keys, which is great. I think this team needs that, but they need better from him if that's going to be the MO.
yep, pretty much. I mean, you can see that the tools are there, but he's a freshman on the road. Lights are bright for one of the first times in his career. Um, Certainly red flags with how he performed, but too much season left to make any sweeping judgments on him.
Yeah,
I
100%.
mean, also, I mean, like I said, I mean, it was just he actually was the one guy who somehow managed to touch paint and then maybe kick it out to the perimeter. But when the spacing's that bad and it's so crowded down low, it results in turnovers.
Yeah.
That's why Washington threw the ball away so much, and that's why Steinbach had a lot of trouble creating. I mean, when you have, Wesley Yates was like trying to like post up himself with two bigs on the floor. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean,
That a Sprinkle needs to look himself in the mirror thing too. Like he is kind of a product of what he's built, right? There was a lot of gross action in this game.
yeah, I mean, yes, because
Okay.
that was the story of Washington's season last year, really. And like, look, if it was just last year, because I thought the roster was incredibly flawed last year with Osibor and a bunch of like really nobodies, but this year when it seems like you have a very talented roster with a legit big man and you can maybe play four out, and your first game against a legit opponent, you come out with that where you look just like last year. That is a should be a little bit of a wake up call. Like
Yeah.
a hey, let's run something different. Let's toy with our lineup construction. Let's
Yeah.
get some more shooters out on the floor. Let's do something.
Yeah. And it's a little overly simplified here, but I do think like one of my takeaways from this game was Scott Drew won
Yep.
this matchup.
Oh
Like
yeah.
just the approach, the pack line, all of this just clearly stifled everything Sprinkle had, and there were no answers for it from the Washington side. It would not be a sleeper's first game, second game of the season recap if I didn't bust out the body language PhD and throw something out here. Keeping an eye on Hans. Keeping an eye on Hans. And I say this to say if I were Hans, I would have felt and done the exact same things. But in the final 6, 7 minutes of this game, Hans was a body language alarm. He
Hmm.
was very frustrated and very visibly so frustrated. Now, again, that he probably should be. If you watch some of the shots his guards were taking, like it was contested, tough all the way twos without Hans even getting a touch. He could not get a post entry even when he had a couple smaller guards switched onto him at points. It was a mess, but it's likely to be a mess. When you step back and look at this roster, I don't know how often this is going to change. Zoom Diallo wants his middies and is going to get his middies. So
Yeah.
I'm keeping an eye on that because I think Hans did not come away happy at all with the way his guards and wings played, the decision making. And I think this is a group that's likely to have those issues all season long. Hans is like a basketball genius. And I don't think he's going to be frustrated if the team is like doing what he believes is the right thing. The team did the wrong thing a
Oh
lot down
yeah.
the stretch of this game. So
Yeah.
monitoring.
He did not get many easy touches, and every touch he did get, it felt like there were three guys trying to climb him like a tree.
Yeah.
So I would be frustrated too. And I mean, on top of that, like Baylor's, I mean, um, they scored 42 paint points, and he scored 10 of those basically. Like he
Yeah.
kind of did his job against an undersized Baylor front, but no one else did.
Yep. Hashtag monitoring. Let's end with this. One question for each team. We'll start with the losing side since we can just put a bow on Washington thoughts here. We both were very high relative to expectations on Washington coming in. Are you selling your Washington stock that you had pre this game, after this game?
I'm not selling or buying anything this early in the season, but it's on the trading block.
Okay. You're open. You're listening
I'm
to phone calls.
I'm open unless they start finding some better perimeter actions and getting some easier shots.
Yep.
But
Okay.
yeah.
The big elephant in the room to me is Claude's return
Mm.
because I think Claude would double and triple down on all the issues we just discussed
Yes.
in this.
Yes, he
And
would.
he's going to come back and need 30 minutes. I don't know what happens with that. Okay, Baylor, 17th on Ken Palm preseason. They've actually dropped to 19th after this game, which is a little strange. Two good performances, I thought. Um, the Big 12's loaded. I don't know how to frame this question because if we were going to call them a contender, that would basically mean they need to be in the mix with Houston and some of the very best teams in this country. I don't want to do that yet. I don't think that's fair to do it. But do you think this Baylor team is a bona fide top 25 team?
No, I don't. All right, so I just think the offense. So first, the pack line with very little rim protection, which showed early, and then they were able to adjust a little bit. That is probably not going to work against a team that can actually make shots and move the touch paint to perimeter. I think good offenses are going to be able to feast on that. Second, the offense. I mean, for example, like late in the second half, Baylor basically the first 10 minutes of the second half was making everything. They made like five straight threes and they like opened up a big lead. Well, then all the tough shots stopped falling and Washington got it within four with, like 6 or 7 minutes left before Yesufu went 94 feet and won in an awesome play. Like, I mean, they have to make a lot of tough shots. It seems like their offense is really reliant on tough shots. Seems like they don't get a lot of easy buckets. And those wings are going to have to carry a huge amount of production. I'm a little scared at just how this seems like it could be a very inconsistent high floor, low or high ceiling, low floor team. So I'm going to say no for now.
Okay. I think that's fair. They got my attention. I
Mhm.
think I would not have even thought at all about putting them in like a top 25 vote. We do a Sleepers Weekly vote. I have them 24th on my ballot this week.
I think that's fair. I think it's borderline. I just don't know if they'll finish there.
Yeah, totally fair. Top 25, both offense and defense through two games. Small sample size alert. But I think this defense is going to be significantly better than I thought. And to your point, teams that can shoot probably exploit this. All eyes on the Creighton matchup a week from actually, what is this, 2 weeks away? They only have one game in the next 2 weeks. That's crazy
Oh,
for
really?
Baylor. But yeah, Creighton will be the game to watch. If their defense holds up against a team full of shooters, they'll have my full
Oh,
attention.
yeah. Yeah, for
Yep.
sure.
Congratulations to Baylor. I'm sorry, Baylor fans. I didn't mean to piss you off. Come back and see if I'm nicer to your team next time. That's Tanner McGrath from Action Network. We do previews and recaps all season long. Stay tuned for more.